Today's exercise is about form. It's about taking a 2D object and turning it into a 3D object. And this is really remarkably easy to do in watercolour. I'm going to be using Arches watercolour paper. It's smooth, 300 GSM. It's also called hot press. Smooth, simple shapes. And I'm going to draw them reasonably accurately. A circle, a semicircle. I'm just thinking about doing curved shapes. I don't want to do triangles and try and turn it into a triangular prism. I don't want to do a square and try and turn it into a 3D object, which would be a cube. Enjoy creating forms. And then when I've finished practicing on this side, I'll move to that side there. Little bit of erasing needed before I begin. So a bit of water on my palette, a little bit of this transparent turquoise, and I'm going to come in and just double check that I've got a darker version there. Put some there to double check. Right, and then I've got a light green and a darker green. I'm going to give each of my shapes really careful amount of paint. Go straight into that one. I think there's plenty of paint on my brush, so I'm going straight into this one. This Arches paper is really old, so it'll be very interesting to see whether or not it has beautifully kept its sizing. Still got plenty on my brush. I'm going to keep going. They'll remain wet for about a minute, so I reckon I've got enough time to keep going. Oh, such a brilliant brush. Look at that. I can just keep going and going. That's why I love these quills. The bristle is a mixture of natural and synthetic, and it's just got this brilliant combination of its ability to suck paint up and to put paint down. Okay, you can see I'm running out of paint now, so I'm not putting in extra. So there's a bit of extra paint there, bit of extra paint there, just suck it up, that brush, and I'm going to just put it over there to, that one's going to dry really quickly. I was intending to go straight back to that one, but I'm wondering whether or not I go straight into my dark on this one here and give it some form by adding that darker tone on the side, perhaps a tiny bit up there. Instantly I give it form. Now I'm going to pick a light source. It's going to be coming that way, so each one therefore is going to have a bit of tone on that side. Actually, it's going to have lots of tone on the left-hand side. Left-hand side. I know that's not logical just there, so put it on the bottom. And that one as well. Give it tone on that side. That side, and a tiny bit of tone. Tiny bit of tone. Different colours will behave a little differently as you're doing this exercise. But you can see that as soon as I added that darker tone, I went from having an object that had almost no form, and instantly it's got form. Got a little bit of a background there. This is a bone dry quill. I'm just going to feather that out with a bone dry one. I was aiming for a smooth transition from one side to the other. So I'm just using a dry brush to see if I can just sufficiently feather it out so I get no hard lines within my shape. Brush is getting just a tiny bit of moisture on it. Okay, that's worked beautifully. Wash that off and dump that one. Wash off the tone and come back for some more light tone. I won't do this one yet because it goes over that one. I'm going to just paint in the final bigger circle. You'll notice that I started on the smaller shapes and then moved slowly to the bigger shapes. I try and aim to never start with something that's really important. Quite the opposite. Start with something unimportant, make your mistakes on those, and then when you've moved to the bigger one, then you're ready for mistakes. So it's beautifully wet over there and it's incredibly light. It's beautifully wet over here and it's drying really fast on this top edge. So I'm going to put a little bit of tone in as fast as I can on that drying edge, drier edge. Come down here. And a little bit of some curvy linear strokes to make it, to just give it that little bit of extra form. I want to feather out that edge again. And I'm getting another brush I haven't used today with a soft edge, and it's bone dry so that I can see if I can just feather that out. Bone dry so that I can move the paint around and definitely not introduce more water. I've got a video on the 3-circle cat method, and you do I'm going to try and fill the page. A circle for its head, a big circle for its hind legs. I am touching that paper with the absolute delicacy of a butterfly. And then there'll be a joining circle that's kind of mid-size. So perhaps it'll be over there. Yeah, look at that. That'll make the back. There. So I want it to be in between those two sizes. Oh, that's an oval. That's kind of perfect. Now the cat will have, I will make its paws, its legs, like little curves. Oh, and then it can have paws that are little curves. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted. The tail can come around like that. So it's going to be made up of, they're kind of like leaf shapes, aren't they, that I'm putting in? And then one that comes along here. And then I'm going to do a little one like that. And maybe I'll put in eyes later. It definitely has ears that are triangular shape, but perhaps I could make them kind of like cones. Cone and a cone. It's going to be a cat in profile, so I'll give it a second ear that's slightly smaller. I'll come back and give it more shapes after that. So for now, a little bit of erasing any shapes, any bits I don't want. So I don't really want to see my pencil mark where it joins there. Don't want to see the pencil mark there. By the way, erasing on smooth paper is an absolute dream. I am pressing really lightly, but it's also so easy to erase on this lovely paper. I'm going to use another transparent colour. This time I'm going to use phthalo blue. Oh, there it is, beautiful and dark. Just get rid of that, whatever that lumpy thing in there. Lovely and dark. And I want to make sure that in here is some beautiful mushy dark stuff. Just run my brush round and round, wiping off all the excess because I don't need that as yet. Lots of water. I want a really pale colour, really pale. So I probably don't need that one there. So that I don't lose my really light colour, I'm going to make a bigger batch that is beautifully transparent. So we're going to let that one dry and start on a cat that's just made up of pure shapes. We're going to start on the cat now using pale blue, and I've got some dark blue ready to turn them from just a flat shape with the pale colour into a full form with the dark colour. I'm going to go for the big one first. It's like a big egg shape. Now, depending on how fast your paper is drying and that's going to depend a little bit on the weather. So it's winter here at the moment. It's not particularly cold. It's just quite lovely. Where's my light source going to be? I'm just going to hold my brush while I decide. It might be easier to go from the top down, put a big arrow to remind me, because this one I was going that way into that. So if that's the light's hitting the top of each of the shapes is going to get a beautiful dark. Now that one is not mixing like the green did at all. So that means that the blue I've just added is much thicker than the, oops, and I'm trying to correct my lines there. Up the side, tiny bit of form on that side. Need to dump that brush. This is a wet brush. I'm just seeing how wet. Now I was just feathering it out with water, with a dry brush on the other ones, but this isn't very wet. I'm going to have to re-wet this blue in here, which is really risky because, oh, look what's happening. I am introducing water and I'm creating problems, but I was forced to use a damp brush because my blue wasn't moving up the shape like I wanted it to. There, curvy linear action. I'm going to get a little bit of back running in there, but that's okay. I've got the tonal range that I wanted, and I really think the tonal range is just that bit more important. Here we go. That was one. I'm not going to do that one because it's attached. This one's got the really deep blue on it, so I'm going to get rid of that. I want a smaller brush, so I'm dumping all my brushes over there. Okay, back to the pale wash. And avoiding those two, I can do any of the others. Do the fine ear. It's a little bit too much paint on my brush for that one. I'm going to switch down to here. I should have wiped more off. And I'll do both ears. There's plenty of moisture on my brush. They're touching, so I think I'll just go for it. And down to there. It is going to be too wet for me to touch in some colour. Let's do another one. And what I want is for it to be wet enough so that when I come in with my darker blue, and I'm going to make my darker blue, by the way, lighter. It was just too dark, which is too viscous, and therefore it just didn't move. What happens? Yeah, look at that. That's way more fun. Bit of dark at the bottom. Bit more risky, but more fun. Beautiful darks at the bottom. I'm just going to let them do their thing while I go back to the lighter tone. Light. I'll remove excess moisture this time because I've only got a few to go. I'm going to come back and add extra shapes over the tail. And I've got this little one here, this tiny little one, which is quite good to do when there's almost no watery paint left on my brush. Go into the darker version, but it's not as dark as before. Oh, that's lovely. That's what we want, that beautiful wet and wet. I'm getting the paint to do some of the work. So this one I'm getting a big back run because it's just drying at this insanely fast rate. I'm going to leave that one because I don't mind it because of the way that it's moved down the page. I'm going to leave them as well. This isn't dry enough for me to do that one and that one, so I'm going to switch back to my lovely green. It might be easier to do this exercise. Oh no, maybe this one can be blue. And then I'll come in green with this one. All right. It might be easier to do this exercise with one colour is what I was going to say. I'm about to glaze over that, and it's not 100% dry You could get out a dryer, of course, and go for it. But I'm just going to take my time to go around it, round, 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 and then at the last moment, one action, it released some of the green, but that's okay. Tiny bit of blue this time, tiny bit. How's that? Is that going to move in? Is it wet enough? Yeah, that's better. This time I put in less paint. It's such a interesting exercise doing wet and wet when you're controlling it. Quite different to just wet in wet where it doesn't matter much what happens. I'm going into the even darker stuff. That is viscous and therefore really, really beautifully dark. That's lovely. I love what, actually, funnily enough, I love what that's done in these stages, almost as though I intended to do that. Now, let's give this one some more blue. That's going beautifully. Pale, pale blue. I'm just going to enjoy myself now. I'm not going to bother to draw anymore. The drawing was partly kind of to make some decisions, but also just to get my eye in. So I'm going to go over this one. So I'm going to do it fast as I can, in and out. And then once you're done with the shape, once you're done going over the green, I'm going to aim not to go over it again. Okay, dump the light brush, go in for slightly darker for down here. Oh, they're going to look a little bit like pebbles. That's cool. And now I'm going to go in for the lush dark mix down here. Mastering wet in wet has so much to do with your tools and getting to know them really, really well. The other thing to keep in mind when you're doing the wet in wet is that phthalo blue is really difficult to work with. I love it because it's brilliant for staining, but it's it just fights you all the time. Okay, let's put one up here. Let's put in some small circles. They're going to stay wet for a minute, so small, dump that brush. I've got the thick version on my brush. When it's too wet, it's so interesting how it behaves in its ability to push the paint on and release. And I really believe it's so much to do with getting to know your brushes intimately. Dump that one again. Now, if I want some sort of cascading interest where it's leading up the page like that, or do I want some sort of balance where, oh, yeah, I like that idea. Let's make this one balance as though it's doing a big dance. Straight into my dark. Dark there. More dark. It's lovely and wet in that corner, so I'm going to get a beautiful effect. I'm running the dark all the way over there, but a bit more there. And since it's in contact with it, I'm going to give it a pretend shadow. I'm calling it a pretend shadow because I am not worrying about shadows today. It's not realism. Right, so now it's given it a bit of stability. It's given the design a lovely little entry point. The little circles were beautiful. I think I'll do more little circles. That's not quite dry enough. That I can't, oh, that is. Let's do a circle in here. And again, I'm trying really hard to go over the underpainting quickly and efficiently so that I'm not spending any time going back and forth over the existing colour. Or I might give it a little bit of form over there. So I'm no longer worrying about the shapes being accurate. I'm just enjoying the creating of 3D objects. Okay, is this dry enough? Yeah, that'll do. So it's tempting to do green for these two, but I think I'd rather more of a connection. If I'm going to add some green, perhaps that'll be in another layer. I think I'll stick with this same phthalo blue for now. As I mentioned, phthalo blue, hard colour to work with. Stainer, so it kind of sits in position. Okay, I've gotten the rest of the shape ready so that I can go over, and I'm done with the glazing. Get some thicker paint and darken the underside. Got a little bit of a loose, oopsie. So easy to make all these mistakes. And then just work out how to make them look like happy accidents rather than mistakes. Or how to own them. All right, does it look anything like a cat? And do I care? Okay, I'm going to make that touch. It'll probably release some of the paint from the one above. That might be nice. Okay, just going to remove a little bit of paint, ready for the passing over there. Into my lovely dark. Each of the shapes is being given the same treatment. I know it's going over that one. A little bit of dark up there. Oopsie. Oh, that's so going to be a whisker later, isn't it? Because I don't want it to be any bigger because it'll never look like a head. But each of the shapes do have some solidity to them. And the amount of time you spend making it look realistic is completely up to you. Fix that one up there. You can see where the pencil went to go. It's pretty much lost its light end there. And I'm wondering if I use this completely, oh, very wet. So I'll get rid of the extra moisture and just reform the tip and see if I can suck some off. Just to see if I can reclaim some of the shape. And I was letting that go, thinking it might look cool, but now I don't like it. So I'm just going to see if I can adjust that a little bit too. Adjust. And I've lost some of this as well, so again I'll lift, and I just went outside the lines again. Lift and just fix that one up a tiny bit. That's cool. This is looking kind of interesting. Perhaps it's a cactus. One of the many advantages in being arty is that you tend to have great imaginations. Teaching in classes of people, real life people, means that you get to ask students all sorts of great questions like that. Like, what do you see? And the answers are always fascinating because I usually have classes full of arty people. Not usually, I always have classes full of arty people, and they come up with really lovely, interesting arty answers. Okay, there's nothing I can do until this is dry. Let's give it a whirl. Okay, this is all lovely and dry, so now I'm going to add some purple just because I feel like it. There's no good reason, but I'm feeling like the green and the blue aren't enough for me. Or I could just say I love purple. So I've added some of my phthalo blue with my magenta. You can add whatever colour whenever you like it, because it's your art. Now, I think I might do a joining one with these three. I'm going in as swiftly as I can to not disturb the layer there. Bit of a wonky shape. There's my pale colour, and come straight in with my darker version. That's lovely. It's moving nicely, and I'm done. So I went in as quickly and efficiently as I possibly could. Now come up this way, and perhaps there'll be one of those shapes. Perhaps there can be one here. Shape in with the pale colour and add the dark. Another one. Will I have more of the pointy leafy shapes or more of those lovely? Yeah, I think I'll do more of them. They're so soft and lovely. This is kind of pointing as though there should be something up there. So, small circle. How small though? That's the question, isn't it? It's a little bit wet, so I'm moving, just pulling my sleeve up. Shall it be there? Or perhaps this should be a little more solid. Should this be more solid? Or should there be something out here? Oh, that's it. Okay, let's do one of those lovely semicircles. And the semicircle can be that way. Swiftly as I can, painting that one in. And then lovely dark. Adding the darks is pure fun. Pure fun. Just absolutely love that part, the wet and wet. Oh, that's nice. That's lovely. Okay. I think it's asking for a small circle there. Way too wet to add anything to at the moment. I might just remove the excess paint, and what can go? That's 3 small circles. That might be enough. Let's do another semicircle in that way, or a small one because we're moving towards the top. Small, and I'm going to suck up some of that to make it semicircular. Suck some up so that when I come in with my dark, it will sit there. Dark, and perhaps a bit dark over there. That. That's looking very much like it's teetering, as though it wants something down here, but I'm going to resist that urge to do that because I'm quite enjoying what I'm doing. I want to put in more circles, but I really like the balance that's there, those of those little ones. Perhaps I could just put in a, oh, I know, I'm going to put in a really, really dark one, and it can be hanging, just touching it there. I'm pretty sure that is what cactuses do, cacti do, is have little attachments. I'm going to put in some more little circles. I know I was going to keep that little lovely odd balance, but done. Don't care. Enjoying the just creativity here. This is asking for more dark ones. And I think I'll do a light one there and a dark one here. Just making decisions as I go along about what I think might look good. And little tiny one there. This brush is doing so well at doing little tiny, tiny circles. Tiny, tiny circles. This one definitely wants a small circle. I'm going to make it a little more indented. needs something in there, doesn't it? That's wet. Right, perfect. I'm going to leave that alone. So I'm now back with the cat, and I was thinking I would add the green to the cat, but I am in love with purple. I think I'll go with the purple. Okay, it's beautifully dry. I want to connect the tail for starters. Perhaps it would come down about there, wouldn't it? So let's do a little one there and straight in with my beautiful duck. That's not even coming off my brush. Needed it to be more fully loaded. That's better. And put one that goes from here to here. Very wet, so I'm just going to remove excess moisture and do a little one up here. Just suck up some of it, not too much. I do want it that amount of wetness. Oh, it's not coming off my brush. That amount of wetness that allows the wet in wet to happen just organically. That's better. I need a joining one there as well, otherwise it'll look very strange. So it can be a circle, round, and it's very wet, but I think I'll do it anyway. Really, I'm just going outside the circle so that I get the dark sitting there. I think that tail is really interesting. Okay, what's next? I need this to be joined. Will I give it? The shoulder of the animal would actually be there. So would it be, this is going to be like will that finish the hind? I didn't think that through, did I? Right, I'm just going to wing it. Put one there. It needs connection, so. Where else does it need connections? It'll have a leg. Oh, definitely a semicircle on that level. Same as where the paw is. Oh, that blue just totally re-wet and released. That's okay. Well, it's not ideal, but probably, maybe it should have been left to dry a little longer. Or maybe it was just always going to release like that. Some colours do release more easily than others. Okay. That's a really funny cat. And I've got a bit of a hind leg going there, so I kind of like that. I quite like the front paw. I think that's funny too, or it could be a mouse. And I think, or it could be a walking stick. It could be a disabled cat, an old cat. And I feel like there needs to be something here. I'm going to put in a semicircle that goes from there to there. I like that shape that will look like the back of the cat. Oops. I just totally did a random line that I didn't mean to do. That's really hard to fix. So I'm just going to get this moisty light brush and go, right, change the shape. Now then, I quite like what I did just then. I wish I'd done it a little lower. That might have been even better. Yeah, that last shape did not help. Let's give the cat some eyes. They'll be little semicircles. And the ears can have little darks in them because I lost those darks in them there. Do little tiny whiskers It looks like the cat is now vomiting. Okay, step one next time will be get a picture of a cat, because that didn't help. And that's why you do two, because doing lovely abstracts just always saves the day. Now I've come back to this one. I'm not minding it as it is. And that's the other reason why working with two is a brilliant way to go, because it gives you fresh perspective all the time. I quite like this one. So interesting to come back to it and go, well, that's not too bad at all. It's taking my eye up nicely. There's a lovely little juggling act going over there. I don't have to do anything with the cat except stick it in my sketchbook as an example, with a note to myself saying, start with a picture of a cat next time, Marianne. And for this one though, that was just fun and organic and built organically. And what that means, I think, is that you just don't always have to have a plan. You can still completely enjoy yourself without a plan. You can just go for it, paint intuitively. So there you go. That was a really lovely exercise in turning simple shapes into 3D form and doing it with wet and watercolour. Starts with a round shape, and I stuck with really easy shapes that were easy to turn into a 3D. And I hope you enjoyed that exercise. That was just pure fun. And I'll think about the cat later and see if there's anything else that could have been done to improve it, or maybe I'll just do it again, and all I'll go and do next time is get a picture of a cat. And I'm doing YouTube Live tomorrow, so maybe that's the answer. Get a picture of a cat. Hey, I just realised I had tape in place, and that would have been a really lovely straight line on the bottom. Look at this tape coming off like an absolute dream. That Arche paper would be, I don't know, I began painting small probably 20 years ago, so wow, Arche, really good job. I think that's extraordinary that the quality is still there in the paper. All the sizing is still perfectly in place all this time later. Thanks for joining me, guys. Please give me a thumbs up if you got anything out of the video. I'll see you next week. Bye.